How does it feel to be useless, daughter?" My mom laughed, her voice sharp and cruel, echoing through my grandparents' living room while every single relative stared at me like I was a stain on the carpet. My cheeks burned. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clench them into fists, and all I could think was, this is it. This is the moment I finally break. Or the moment I finally fight back. I stood there, 22 years old, diploma in my bag, dreams in my heart, and somehow still the family joke. So tell me honestly, would you have walked away? Or would you have done what I did? That night I went home, locked myself in my tiny bedroom, and cried into my pillow until my throat felt raw. I kept replaying her words in my head, over and over again. Like a broken record, useless, useless, useless. It wasn't the first time she'd humiliated me, but it was the first time she'd done it in front of everyone I loved. And I swear something inside me snapped. But to understand why that one sentence destroyed me so completely, you need to know what my life had been like growing up with my mother. From the outside, my family looked perfect. Big house, Sunday dinners, smiling photos on social media, and a mom who everyone said was so strong and such a devoted parent. But behind closed doors, my mom was my first bully. Nothing I ever did was good enough. If I brought home a 90 on a test, she'd ask why it wasn't a 100. If I cleaned the kitchen, she'd point out the one crumb I missed. If I tried a new hobby, she'd laugh and say, "Don't waste your time, you'll quit like you always do." My older brother Adam was her golden child. He could do no wrong. When he failed a class, it was the teacher's fault. When he broke something, it was an accident. When I failed, it was because I was lazy. When I broke something, it was because I was careless and useless. I learned very early that love in our house wasn't unconditional. It was earned, and I was always coming up short. I tried so hard to earn it anyway. I joined clubs, stayed up late studying, took on extra chores, and even skipped hanging out with friends just to be home and be helpful. But no matter what I did, my mom always found a way to tear me down. Sometimes she'd whisper it just to me, "You'll never be anything special." Other times she'd say it loudly at dinner, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" And my dad, he just stayed quiet, eyes on his plate, pretending he didn't hear a thing. By the time I got into university, I thought things would change. I thought if I proved myself out there in the real world, she'd finally be proud of me. I worked 2 part-time jobs, studied like crazy, and lived on instant noodles just to make it through. Every time I called home, she'd ask, "So are you still struggling?" Never, "How are you?" or "I'm proud of you." Then came graduation. The day I had dreamed about for 4 long years. I walked across that stage, heart pounding, and held my diploma like it was a golden ticket to a better life. For the first time ever, I felt proud of myself. My mom and dad came, along with Adam and a bunch of relatives. Everyone clapped, but my mom just smiled that tight, fake smile she always wore in public. In the car on the way home, she said, "Well, let's see if that degree is actually worth anything." And just like that, my bubble burst. A week later, my grandparents hosted a big family dinner to celebrate my graduation. I was nervous but hopeful. Maybe this would be the night she finally said she was proud of me. I wore my nicest dress, did my hair, and even practiced what I'd say if she complimented me. The living room was full of laughter, the smell of food, and relatives I hadn't seen in years. People hugged me and said, "Congratulations," and "You must be so proud." For a moment, I felt like I belonged. Then my mom stood up with her glass and tapped it with a spoon. "I just want to say a few words," she announced, smiling. My heart started racing. This was it, I thought. This is my moment. She looked straight at me and said, "We're all very happy that my daughter finally finished university. It only took her 4 years and a lot of our money." Some people chuckled awkwardly. My smile froze. Then she laughed and added, "But let's be honest. What is she going to do now? She still doesn't have a real job. How does it feel to be useless, daughter?" The room went silent. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. My aunt looked away. My cousins stared at their phones. My grandparents looked shocked but said nothing. Adam smirked. And my mom, my own mother, laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world. I mumbled something and ran to the bathroom, locking myself inside while my chest heaved with sobs. I stared at myself in the mirror. Mascara streaked down my face and whispered, "You are not useless," but I didn't believe it. Not yet. That night I went home and lay awake until sunrise. I realized I had spent my entire life trying to win love from someone who enjoyed watching me fail, and for the first time, I asked myself a terrifying question. What if I stopped trying? So I did. I stopped calling her every day. I stopped telling her my plans. I stopped asking for her approval. Instead, I poured all that energy into myself. I applied to dozens of jobs, went to interviews, and practiced answers in front of the mirror. After weeks of rejection, I finally got an offer from a small but promising company in another city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I packed my bags, moved into a tiny apartment, and started my new life without telling my mom until the day I left. When I called her to say I was moving, she laughed again. "You, living on your own? You'll be back in a month," she said. I hung up without arguing. For once, I didn't need to defend myself. The first few months were hard. I was lonely, scared, and exhausted. But every paycheck felt like a victory. Every small success felt like proof that I wasn't useless. My coworkers praised my work ethic. My boss trusted me with real responsibilities. And slowly, my confidence grew. About 6 months later, my grandparents invited me to another family gathering. I almost said no, but something inside me wanted to go back. Not as the broken girl who ran to the bathroom, but as the woman I was becoming. I bought a new outfit, stood taller, and walked into that house with my head held high. My mom looked me up and down and said, "So, you finally decided to visit. How's your little job?" "It's going really well," I replied calmly. "I actually just got a raise." She rolled her eyes. "Sure you did." Dinner went on, and people asked me about my life. For the first time, I spoke confidently about my work, my city, and my plans. I saw surprise on their faces, and something darker on my mom's. Halfway through the night, she couldn't help herself. She said loudly, "Well, let's hope this doesn't end like all her other attempts. You know how she is, always quitting." That old familiar pain hit my chest, but this time I didn't run. So that was the situation I was in, standing there with everyone watching, my mother once again trying to crush me. Before I tell you what I did next, I want you to pause for a second and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have stayed quiet to keep the peace, or would you have finally spoken up? I took a deep breath, stood up, and said, "Mom, I'm not useless, and I'm done pretending your words don't hurt me." The room went silent again, but this time I didn't feel small. "You've spent my whole life tearing me down instead of lifting me up, and I'm done letting you do that." She laughed nervously. "Oh, don't be so dramatic." "I'm not," I said, my voice steady. "I have a job I'm proud of, I pay my own bills, and I'm building a life for myself. I don't need your approval anymore, but I won't accept your disrespect." For the first time ever, she had nothing to say. My grandparents started clapping softly. My aunt wiped her eyes. Even my dad finally looked up and said, "She's right." My mom stood there, stunned, her perfect image cracking in front of everyone. And I realized something incredible in that moment. Her power over me was gone. After that night, things changed. Some relatives reached out to apologize for staying silent all those years. My dad started calling me just to talk. My mom tried to act like nothing happened, but I kept my boundaries. I didn't let her insult me anymore. And when she tried, I ended the conversation. A year later, I was promoted to a leadership role at work. I bought my first car. I built friendships that felt like family. And one day, I caught my reflection in a window and smiled. Not because I was perfect, but because I was proud of myself. My mom never really apologized. Maybe she never will, but I don't need that anymore. I finally learned that my worth doesn't come from her words. It comes from my own courage, my own effort, and my own heart. So that's my story. The night my mom called me useless in front of the entire family was the night I stopped believing her and started believing in myself. If you've ever been made to feel small by someone who was supposed to love you, I want you to know this. You are not useless, and you are not alone. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.